One nice thing about making these videos is that I actually do all the homework problems that you do, so I really think about them. But let's look at this problem. This is similar to your 1.3 number 3. You're given a graph and they want you to draw the graphs of the following functions, and they have some things here. So again, this is not what we're used to looking at. We are not usually given a graph. We're usually given an f. We're used, f of x equals cosine x. We're given something. And so what I'm going to do is make it look like something I'm used to. So the first thing I did is I took these x values where they're given to me and I put the y values underneath it. And then I looked at what happens in the first one. That says take the old y value and subtract 3. So I took the old y value and I subtracted 3. And I get these new y values and I went and plotted them. And now I can tell you what happens because I plotted them and I drew the new graph and it took my original graph and lowered it by it's like they took the original graph on the elevator and then just lowered it 3 floors down below the y equals 0 line, the x-axis. And so isn't that cool that you can just see it with using numbers? I always use numbers. I like to see it with actual numbers. All right, next one. So here this is a little bit more tricky. So I'm first going to calculate x plus 1. X plus 1 is given by these guys right here. And so this is my x value, but I'm going to plot f of x plus 1, the y value at this thing. So what is the y value at negative 1? Well, it's 1, because if I go over a negative 1, I get 1. So I plot all these guys, and then I have a problem right here, because at x equals 2, it's a fractional value. So I kind of ignored that. X equals 4, it's not on the graph. And so what I did is I added in a couple more x values where I can see something. For example, at x equals negative 3, x plus 1 is negative 2, and the y value there is 2. So I just plotted a few more points. At x equals negative 1, the y value is, I think I didn't need to do that. Let me see. Yeah, the x plus 1 is 0. So x plus 1 is 0, and the y value here is 0. And I did a couple more, so you can see that. And so when I redrew the new graph, I can see what it did. It shifted my graph to the left by 1. So I needed a little bit more. I needed to think a little bit more adding that. 1/2 x. So I do the same thing here. I just take the y values and I multiply them by 1/2. And look what it did. It took my original graph and squished it. Negative y. So I took negative y and then I plotted it, and now I can see someone took a piece of paper, folded it on the x-axis, over the x-axis, and then drew a reflection of that over the x-axis. So D reflects my original graph over the x-axis. So I think the hardest one was B.